And thank you, everybody who is joining us today. My name is Amy VanderPloeg. I am the Director of Sales for Porter Hills Village and Cook Valley Estates. And today we are on our virtual series. We're at number 3. So many of you have joined us for the previous webinars that we've done. We started by talking specifically about our new project going on the Porter Hills Village campus called The Flats. Some of you have seen that presentation in person. The second virtual event was talking with our CEO, Steve Fedico, and James Kelly, our Chief of Sales and Marketing, and they were talking a lot about the financial aspects of not just Porter Hills Village, but our entire organization. And now today's session, we are really going to dig into the various levels of care, what we call the continuum of care. So that's what I'm going to cover today. So just a couple of things. You are on a Zoom webinar, so you should be seeing on your screens, this will either be at the bottom of your screen or across the top of your screen. There's a button called Q&A, question and answer. So we're going to do questions at the end of the presentation. So you can type your question right into that Q&A section. And you can do that throughout the presentation. Brooke will keep track of those questions and will read them to me at the end. So don't hesitate to do that. All right, so let's get started. First, I know in our audience today, we have many of you who have, as I said, come to either an in-person presentation or you've done these virtual events. But for those of you who are newer, let me just give an overview of Porter Hills Village and, more importantly, Brio Living Services, which is our parent organization. Sometimes that gets a little bit confusing. But what Brio Living Services comprises is United Methodist Retirement Communities, which is based in Chelsea, Michigan, and Porter Hills. Our two organizations came together several years ago and became Brio Living Services. Between our two organizations, we date back to 1906. Brio Living Services is a not-for-profit organization, and that means we are mission-driven. So everything we do is with an eye on our mission of serving older adults, whether that be through our communities or the services that our organization provides out in the greater community. So that's just a little overview of who we are. But today we are specifically concentrating on Porter Hills Village. So the map that you see on your screen right now is the map of our original existing Porter Hills Village campus. And it's important that you see this, and then later in the presentation, I'll show you a new map because we are expanding. And many of you on the webinar today have heard about the flats that we're building. And I'll show you that map in a little bit. But this map is the Porter Hills Village that most of you have been familiar with over the years. And our campus features the full continuum. So what do I mean when I say that? Well, we are really referring now, and as an industry, we're referring to continuing care communities as a life plan community. Because the folks who decide to reside with us, to move to our communities, are really planning for the rest of their lives. And the reason I say that is because on our campus and in our community, you have the full lineup, if you will, of whatever you might need in the future. So starting out with independent living, then we have something called enhanced independent living. We have assisted living services and skilled nursing. And all of this is part of what you are looking to when you experience the full continuum on our campus. So today what I wanted to do is break down each one of these different levels because we get a lot of questions about that. Obviously, for those of you who are talking to us either about our existing independent living options or the new options coming in the way of the flats apartments, you are all able to live independently right now. You're doing that right now in your own homes. But with an eye to the future, obviously there are questions about what does that look like if and when I start to need more care and more assistance. So that's what I wanted to go through today. So let's start with independent living, and I'm not going into great detail with this because we've done presentations around this topic and we continue to do these presentations every month. But when you talk about moving to a retirement community for independent living, this is a very active lifestyle. It's for people who are able to manage any and all of their current care, and means you're independently mobile and you make good judgment and good decision making. And some of what's on the screens that I'm going to show you today are the actual criteria that we have for the various levels of care. And what that means is these are our expectations when you move into our community. So when you're moving into independent living, our expectation is that you fit this description. You're right now living an active lifestyle and you want to continue to do that. So in independent living, and again, not talking about this in detail, but in terms of the financial aspect, we have what's called a refundable entrance fee. And then our residents also pay a monthly service fee. And again, today's presentation is not going into detail about this. Many of you have already heard that, but we have a wide range of entrance fees, depending very much on the size of the dwelling that you're looking at, from, a 1-bedroom apartment all the way up through townhomes and estate homes. So as you can imagine, there's a big range of entrance fees. Monthly service fees are all-inclusive fees, and we don't refer to it as rent because it's so much more than that. Because again, when you use the term lifestyle, that means there are lots of opportunities that go along with life in independent living. You're not just renting an apartment or a townhome. You're actually part of an active community that provides you with a number of services and amenities to help keep you independent, but also to enhance your life. Okay, so then the next level that we have on the Porter Hills Village campus is something called enhanced independent living. So this would not typically be a level that you would move into if you have started at Porter Hills Village in independent living. The folks who choose enhanced independent living are those residents who they want to preserve their autonomy. They want to have security and comfort and convenience, but they also want added services. So as an example, in enhanced independent living, 3 meals a day are provided. We have a lovely main dining room area where the enhanced living residents dine, and they are dining there for every meal, 7 days a week. They also have housekeeping services and linen service. This is a very carefree kind of lifestyle with very little things that residents are responsible for other than their daily activities and what they choose to do. In enhanced independent living, we have an emergency response system. We also have a beautiful partnership with Corewell Health Geriatrics right on our campus, which is very convenient for not just the residents of enhanced living, but also our higher levels of care as well, can be seen by Corewell Health Geriatrics. So enhanced living would be perfect for somebody who's not driving anymore, somebody who really does not either want to have to prepare meals and do grocery shopping, or maybe they don't have the ability to do that anymore. And the residents in enhanced living really benefit from a more structured lifestyle. So this is different than folks who are choosing to move into our garden apartments or our flats apartments, which we are currently building. Those are residents who are still coming and going and very active, not just on our campus, but off our campus as well. In enhanced living, we don't see that as much. The residents living here in these apartments are pretty much sticking to our campus and not leaving as much unless it's for a group type of outing. Now on the screen, you can see the costs and the sizes of the apartments that we have in enhanced living. So this is a rental product, actually. There is no entrance fee. It's a straight monthly rent that includes, as I said, all 3 meals a day and that, those services that are included. And so you can see the range of monthly rents, anywhere from $2,900 a month up to about $4,700 a month. So this is, again, for typically an older individual who would like to have more structure and wants to have a rental option. Next is what we call our catered assisted living. So our assisted living at Porter Hills Village is licensed by the state of Michigan. We are what's called a social model in our assisted living, and that represents a more residential style of living, as opposed to, I would compare it to when we talk in a couple minutes about our skilled nursing options. That's more of a medical model. But in assisted living, our goal is to allow our residents there to be as independent as they can be with their own personal care, but it's catered to be focused on what each individual resident needs. And so typically, the way that it would work in our community is if someone is in independent living and they're starting to need assistance with things like dressing or bathing, in the bathroom, help with that. Those are things that are provided in assisted living. But we very much approach each resident as if we're there to assist them. So we're not wanting to do everything for the resident because that doesn't instill autonomy. We want to assist residents in helping themselves with those needs. And so it really frees up the resident from having to worry about their medications or their doctor visits or anything like that, because we are coordinating all of that for our residents. There are support services in assisted living that are available around the clock. So that is, again, that's going to be help with bathing and dressing and personal care and medications. And again, not that we're doing this completely for the resident, but we're assisting them so they still feel like they have choice, which also brings dignity for our residents in assisted living. There are 24/7 check-ins for peace of mind. And then every resident has a personal help button to ask for assistance. So this is important because in assisted living, again, the expectation of the resident is that they are able to recognize that they need help and then push that button. So if a resident is wanting to go to the bathroom, that they recognize that and they're able to press that button so that a team member can come in and assist them. And sometimes that assistance is what we would call standby assist, which means the team member is there in case, if the resident needs some help. So it's a very catered lifestyle to the specific needs of the resident. When someone is getting ready to move into our assisted living area, our clinical team is doing an assessment that determines what level of help does the person need. And so when we think about or talk about the pricing of assisted living, it's based on what we call a tier level. We have 3 tiers, 1, 2, and 3, again, depending on how much assistance does that resident need. And so when you look at the costs of assisted living, which is a monthly rate, that's all inclusive, it's based on the tier. So on the screen on my little chart, you can see that there's a range, and that's because of those tier levels. And then we have various sizes of apartments in assisted living. We have studio apartments, what we call a large studio. We have 1 bedroom with 1 bath and 1 bedroom with 2 bath. And then you can see those accompanying costs there, again, based on the tier level. So in assisted living, our residents in the photo that you can see on the screen, those are residents who are involved in a painting class. We have a wellness team whose role is to provide engagement opportunities for our residents wherever they live, whether it's independent living or assisted or memory care. And so residents in assisted living are going to be encouraged to participate in various activities to the degree that they are able to. Assisted living residents also have the 3 meals a day included, just like an enhanced, and they're going to a main dining room for that. We certainly encourage residents in assisted living to go to the dining room for meals, because that also provides an opportunity for socialization when people are eating all together. But there are lots of opportunities for residents in assisted living to participate, whether it's in fitness or music, arts and crafts, movies, outside events that we take residents to. All of that is a part of what's included in assisted living. Another aspect of assisted living is our memory care households. And the reason I say it's an aspect of assisted living is because our memory care households are licensed by the state the same way as our assisted living is. So memory care is licensed as assisted living, but it is a different type of program and different type of care that's provided for those residents that have cognitive decline. And this is a very important distinction to talk about the difference between assisted living and memory care. So, of course, in memory care, residents are being provided assistance with bathing and dressing and personal care, the same way as in assisted living. Medications are monitored and dispensed for the residents there. But the training of the care team, this is where things differ, because in memory care, our care providers are specifically trained in the TIPA SNO positive approach to care method. Now, maybe that is like I'm speaking Greek when I talk about this. If you have not experienced this level of care with a loved one or a spouse or a parent, maybe this is all new to you. But there is a woman, her name is Tipa Snow. She is someone who has developed what she calls a positive approach to care method. It's a specific way for team members in a memory care setting to work with older adults with cognitive decline. And this is a very important distinction because, again, at every level of care, our goal is to allow our residents to participate in their own care as much as they can. And so, especially in memory care, it can be very difficult if a team member just comes in and starts doing things to a resident, especially with someone with cognitive decline, Alzheimer's, dementia. that can be very confusing or disorienting. And so Teepa Snow's positive approach to care teaches our team members how to assist a person with dementia, in things like brushing their hair. There's specific ways that a care team member would hold the resident's hand, holding the brush, and help them to do it. Now, does all of this kind of care take longer? Yes, it does. And that's a big part of the training of our team members, is having that patience to work with someone with dementia to be able to assist in the care that they need. So this is a really wonderful aspect of our memory care households, that we have our team members go through these trainings so that they know how to approach someone with dementia. We also have a music and memory therapeutic program. So we have a music therapist that comes in onto our campus, and she works in all of our different areas of care, but in memory care as well, because music is something that even someone with dementia or Alzheimer's, they remember music from their childhood or earlier days, and it can be just a wonderful source of comfort. So that's an important aspect. So now I've mentioned the word household a couple times. And what do I mean by that when we talk about our memory care households? So for those of you who don't have any experience working with or being around someone with dementia, something that is a very important aspect for someone with cognitive decline is to keep things on a small scale, because they can be easily overwhelmed. And so our households are much smaller areas with not as many residents in each household as we have in assisted living, just so that the care, not just the care area is smaller, but the household in general. And so, as an example, the dining space for the households are smaller because it is not so overwhelming in that way. And then there's a smaller resident to team member ratio for personalized care and attention. At the bottom of this screen, you can see the pricing for memory care. We have 2 sizes of dwelling studios and 1 bedroom with 2 baths. And that's a flat monthly amount that covers everything that's included. So different than our assisted living, where we have a tier evaluation that's done and pricing is determined from that. In memory care, it is a set amount. So then let's talk about skilled nursing. So at Porter Hills, or part of Brio Living Services, on our Porter Hills Village campus, we have our health center, is what we call it, and it is our skilled nursing area. But we also have what's called our greenhouse homes. That's actually on our Cook Valley Estates campus, which is over on East Paris. So I'll talk about the similarities between the two and then the difference. So skilled nursing is also referred to as long-term care. So there are some very distinct differences from assisted living to skilled nursing. So long-term care is provided by clinical care providers, and it is full personal and clinical care and support for the resident. So previously, I said in assisted living and even in memory care, our care team, our team members are there to assist our residents, helping them to help themselves to the degree that they can. When you get to the level of skilled nursing, otherwise called long-term care, the expectation is that the resident really cannot participate in their own care in any way, shape, or form. They are no longer able to perform any of those tasks on their own. And so that's a very different level of support and care that's provided, because our care team in our health center needs to do everything for the resident. Another big distinction with skilled nursing is that there is continuous oversight, because residents who are in skilled nursing typically have changing or unstable health conditions. So the oversight is very much looking at the person's current health situation, and many times that health is declining rapidly or changing from one day to the next. But just as I said before, with assisted living and memory care, we still want to provide meaningful engagement opportunities for our residents in skilled nursing. And that includes a lot of things that are done right in the skilled nursing area. And we have a lovely room where residents can go for, arts and crafts things or games. But we also do outings. So we are, loading up our skilled nursing residents and going places on the bus. That's still a very important component of the residents' daily lives. There is communal dining for skilled nursing in the household dining rooms. And then in the greenhouse homes, which again is on the Cook Valley Estates campus, we have two greenhouse homes, if you will, on the campus at Cook Valley. And each one has 10 elders in each home. So very small. The greenhouse model is something that was started years ago. And it's kind of a funny name, but it's a whole philosophy of care that is provided, again, in a home-like setting. So what that means in the greenhouse homes is that each resident there, they're called elders. Each elder has their own bedroom, if you will, that's kind of around the outside or the perimeter of the household, with the common areas and the kitchen and the dining in the center. So it's set up very much like our own homes. The hub of activity in our houses is usually the kitchen and maybe the living room or the dining room. And that's how it's set up in the greenhouse homes as well. As far as the care level in either our health center at Porter Hills Village or the greenhouse homes, this is comprehensive care that is being provided, again, because of the nature of the health needs of the residents at the skilled nursing level, and there are lower staffing ratios. And then, as you can imagine, with this level of care, it is also the highest priced level of care. And so we have daily rates in our various settings. And the majority of the residents that are moving into our skilled nursing or our greenhouse homes are our own internal residents that have worked, have gone through the continuum. And so on the screen here, I talk about the inside community room rate. That means that it's an existing resident of ours. And this is where residents have a discount at the skilled nursing level. So you can see the rate at the greenhouse homes and the rate here at the health center at Porter Hills Village. Both of those are private rooms, and they have a daily rate $445 a day or $478 a day. And that is a discounted rate from what someone from outside of our community would pay moving in. So just a little bit more about the greenhouse model, the household model. In a couple minutes here, I'm going to show a slide where we talk about what we are building on our campus at Porter Hills Village, because the care areas that I've just covered, assisted living, memory care, and skilled nursing on the Porter Hills Village campus, are the oldest section of our building, dating back to 1970 was when Porter Hills opened. So that big middle section of our main building here is we have done everything that we can to keep that, updated and to code, but we desperately need new assisted living, memory care, and skilled nursing. And that is a big part of the project that is currently under construction, which will include the flats independent living apartments. And what we're moving to when we build our new assisted living and memory care is using that same household model that the greenhouse homes is. And that's really important because that will change the feel, not just the feel of the building itself, but also the way that care is delivered in those settings. So in a couple slides here, I'll show you a picture of what some of that might look like. Before I go to that, though, I want to talk about benevolent care. So on the first slide, when I talked about Brio Living Services, and I said that we are a not-for-profit, mission-based organization, benevolence is a huge part of our mission. So Brio Living Services has a foundation, and the cornerstone of that foundation, which is UMRC and Porter Hills together, is our benevolent care program. This program upholds our commitment that qualified residents will always have a place to call home. And so when a resident joins us, they come in and they're moving into independent living, we do a financial qualification to make sure that, you as a resident can have the ability to afford to live here. But it's also to assess if you were to run out of money over your lifetime through no fault of your own, that you would be eligible for our benevolent care program. So we do not ask people to leave if they run out of money. And our foundation raises money. The financial support for benevolence is paid by the foundation. And it's for residents' continued care so that they can stay with us. And that benevolent care support would cover monthly fees that a resident is unable to pay after they've exhausted all their available resources. So this is something that we are very proud of, and it's also a wonderful promise for you when you enter into, our continuum, if you will, is that that you will be cared for in our community for the rest of your life, regardless of your ability to pay. Okay, so let's talk about what is currently happening on our campus. And if any of you have driven past Porter Hills Village down Fulton, you've seen there's a lot of stuff happening. All summer, there was a lot of dirt being moved, and the land was being prepared to build our expansion. It's a $133 million expansion. And on the screen, you can see what it all includes. So primarily what we've been talking about for the past several months has concentrated on the flats, which is the 57 new independent living apartments that are slated to be ready for move-in by the fall of 2027. So next year in the fall is when we are projecting that the flats apartments will be ready for move-in. So what we have been doing for several months is lots of presentations, talking about the flats, the various types of apartments, the different sizes and the costs. And we have been building what's called a priority reservation list. So I think some of you on this webinar today are probably already on that list, or you're thinking about joining. It's similar to a wait list, but different. So you're putting down $1,000 deposit, refundable deposit, to be on this priority list. And what that gives you the opportunity to do is pick out an actual apartment when we're ready to do that. We are anticipating that by June, so this coming June, we will be able to go to the people who are on that priority list and say, okay, now it's time to pick the exact apartment that you want. And in the flats, we've really expanded our offering. And so in the flats building, we have 1-bedroom apartments. We have 1 bedroom with a den, and we have 2-bedroom apartments. So we have some variety in the flats building that we have not had on our campus before, but people have been asking for it. I think if you've not seen the prices of the flats, you will also be very pleasantly surprised, because our organization worked very hard to keep the entrance fees of the flats apartments very reasonable. And I think we have done that. So the 57 new independent living apartments are a very exciting addition to our campus. But then the next things that you see on the slide here are equally, if not more exciting. And that is that we are building brand new assisted living and memory care apartments, as well as skilled nursing rooms. And so all of this will be in the same building and all attached as the flats apartments. And as I mentioned just a minute ago, we're moving to that household model within these care areas, which means a smaller number of residents in a general space set up more like that greenhouse home, where the private rooms kind of surround the common areas where residents can come together. I think that's going to make a huge difference in the lives of residents who are in those care areas, but also for our team members who are delivering the care. So in addition to the new independent living apartments and the new care areas, the flats building will also have all new and additional common areas. So those of you who are a little bit familiar maybe with our garden apartments, you've heard us talk about our Fairway Grill, which is our restaurant. Maybe some of you have come to an event in the Fairway Grill. If you've toured in those areas, you've seen, our market and our cafe and our game room, and all of that is fantastic. But we are going to be building more of those types of common areas in the flats building. So another restaurant and another cafe, another library, all of that. And the most exciting part is that this new expansion will be connected to our existing building. So let me turn to that layout. So I showed you the campus map as it was for many, many years. This map that you're looking at is now how the campus will look when the flats project is complete. So I have my mouse here, and I'm not sure how well you can see my mouse moving, but I'm going to try to just orient you to what you're looking at. So up here at the top of this map is Fulton Street. This is 96, the highway. Over here is the entrance onto our campus. And if you've been on our campus, you know that the first thing that you see are our townhomes. These are our independent living, duplexed townhomes. They kind of look like condos. That's in the white here. If we keep going around the curve, here is our new Ravines building. This building opened last year in 2025. This is a building with 26 independent living apartments, and I'm very happy to say is 100% occupied. So that's the Ravines building. If we come over this way, what you're seeing in this teal green color, this is the whole new expansion. This is what's being constructed right now. So the first big wing of this are the flats apartments. This is a 3-story building with the 57 independent living flats apartments. Connected to this are the three wings of the care settings. So these two wings, again, 3 stories, have assisted living apartments and memory care apartments. And then this third wing here is the skilled nursing area. So all of this is connected, which is really going to be a wonderful aspect, especially for couples who are residing in our community, when one spouse needs care and the other doesn't, which is unfortunately happens often because we don't age at the same rate, do we? So this will be really a great setup if you have a spouse who's living in a flats apartment and independent living while their spouse is over in assisted living or memory care. It's in very close proximity and everything is all connected. And then I just mentioned that there are going to be all new common areas, and that will primarily be all on the first floor, right down here near the entryway into this building, where there'll be a brand new restaurant, a new cafe, hair salon, convenience market. All of that will be right here. Also in great proximity for the residents who live in assisted living, memory care, and skilled nursing. So again, if you have a spouse in independent living, you could very easily go get your husband or wife that's in assisted living and then bring them back to the cafe for lunch or something like that. All very close together. And then I don't know how well you can see this, but this little arm right here is a bridge. It's a bridge that connects this new building to our main existing building. So what you see here is currently the main entrance to Porter Hills Village. When you're coming here to meet with us or to visit somebody, you would come in this main entrance. And this is the area on the first floor where enhanced independent living is. This whole section is also currently where assisted living, memory care, and skilled nursing lives. Now, right here, you see a big empty green space. So in the future, the plan is that once we have opened up our new assisted living, memory care, and skilled nursing, and after we've moved our residents into their new apartments, this old section of the building will get torn down. So that's why this is showing green space right here. If you're able to see my cursor and we follow over here, these are our existing garden apartments, we call them. So we have garden apartments west and garden apartments east, and those are staying, and we have a waiting list for those. So just more independent living, also very lovely options, all part of the main building. And then right in here is our wellness center, which is where our indoor swimming pool is, and our fitness studio is there. So that is the whole campus. As I said at the beginning, we have done and continue to do specific events about the flats independent living apartments that are coming. And if you haven't been to one of those events, I would encourage you to come. We do 2 in-person events every month. So we've got them coming up in March and April. That's a good thing to come to if you haven't been to one of those events. We also would encourage you to come for an appointment and a tour of, our existing campus and to talk about the future, whether that involves the flats or whether you're more interested in a garden apartment or a townhome or even the ravines. All of those areas have a waiting list. So if that's more to your liking than the flats building, then we would encourage you to join our waiting list. Also, I said that today's webinar is our 3rd one in the series. Our 4th webinar is coming up later this month, and that one is going to feature the owner of Seniors Moving Smarter. We have worked very closely with them. They're a great company that has moved a lot of our residents into dwellings. So the owner, Liz McCulloch, is going to be doing the presentation on downsizing and just all the things that you can start working on right now. So that's coming up in April. I'm sorry, in February. I don't, maybe Brooke can tell me the date here in a minute. But that's a virtual event, so anybody can join on that as well. Okay, so with that, I think what we're going to do is open things up to questions. So again, just as a reminder, you have a Q&A button either on the bottom of your screen or the top. You can type your question right in there and Brooke will read it for me. So Brooke, I'm going to have you join us here a minute and let me know if we've got any questions.
Yes, we do have a couple. And just for that next virtual event, that is going to be on Wednesday, February 25th, and that is going to start at 1 o'clock. So if you
Thank
are
you.
interested in that, I made a bunch of reminder calls. You can call me to RSVP. So
Great,
for
thank you.
questions, I'm going to go through them as they came in. So we're going to jump back to the enhanced and assisted living for a moment. So the
Okay.
question we were asked is there a difference between enhanced and assisted living in regards to the activities that are provided on campus?
Oh, that's a great question. So is there a difference in the activities? Well, yes and no. I guess yes, the difference is that any activities that we are offering to our residents are geared toward the ability of the resident. So that's true in independent living, in enhanced and assisted and memory care. They're geared toward what our residents are able and want to participate in. So, in enhanced living, many of those residents are still able to, for instance, participate in an aqua aerobics class or a yoga class or, any number of different, more active kinds of activities. In assisted living, that might be a little bit less. So, there might be different types of more like a seated exercise class or a stretching class that might be more appropriate. We also have different wellness guides. That's the term that we use for folks who do our activities. So we have different people who are, in place for independent living versus assisted living, because again, the level of activity has to change and be appropriate for the area that they're delivering those activities in. So hopefully that answers your question.
Great. So the next question is a two-part question. The first part was, if you are to transition from full independent living to enhanced independent living, does that necessitate moving into a new unit?
Good question. So if someone was to move from their independent living dwelling into enhanced independent living, yes, that is a different apartment, quite a bit smaller, different part of the building. It's also a different type of contract. So if you are moving into our independent living, let's say you're moving into the flats or even a garden apartment, you are paying that upfront entrance fee, and a portion of that is refundable to you or to your estate. So if indeed you moved from, say, a garden apartment and you went to enhanced independent living, you would get the refund that's due to you of your entrance fee and then enter into a new contract, which does not have, there's no entrance fee for enhanced living or assisted living or any of the care levels. You would start paying the monthly rate for the size of the dwelling that you were in. As I mentioned, I think in talking about enhanced independent living, that's not usually a step that independent residents take. If they need to make a move, they're most of the time moving from their independent apartment right into assisted living. So our enhanced independent, the majority of the residents have moved straight into enhanced from outside of our community, if that makes sense. Good question, though.
And then the second part of that was, if you were to move into enhanced living as a couple, how would that affect your pricing?
Oh, that's a good question. So, in all of our areas, there is a second person fee, if you will. So in enhanced independent living, the second person fee is $600 a month in addition to the main rent amount. So again, as in all areas of our campus, there's always a second person fee. Hopefully that answers that question.
And then the next question was in regards to greenhouse homes. Are
Mhm.
there two staffed caregivers at all times?
Yes. So in the greenhouse homes, there's more than that at all times, and that's the same in assisted living, memory care, skilled nursing. Um, it's yeah, there's definitely more than that, and specifically in the greenhouse homes, I do not know the answer. If a follow up question was, well, how many staff members are there? I don't know that answer, but there are definitely more than two.
Okay. Another question was in regards to enhanced and assisted living units. Are they similar in size and are they adjacent to one another?
So yes, if the question is the apartments in enhanced independent living are exactly the same size and layout as they are on the second floor of our building in assisted living. Now, I put an asterisk on that because everything is changing as we speak. Because as I said, we are building brand new assisted living, memory care, and skilled nursing. And those apartments in all of those areas will be quite a bit larger than what we currently have, which is it's that's something that we have been looking forward to for a very long time. So there will be no comparison from our current layout of assisted living to our new layout of assisted living. We have drawings of what the new assisted living apartments will look like. So that is helpful. But as I said earlier, right now we're concentrating on sort of pre-selling the flats apartments. Um, I don't know the time frame for when we will start pre-selling the assisted living apartments. That typically would happen maybe 6 months before that part of the building is set to open. So hopefully that is an okay answer.
Okay, and then the last one we have for now is in assisted living. If we are still driving, can we use our cars and store them on campus? And what does parking look like for those units?
Yeah, good question. Definitely. If we have an assisted living resident, which occasionally we do, that is still driving, absolutely, you can park your car on campus. At this point, that would be outdoor parking, um, not an assigned spot, but an assigned area or an assigned parking lot for residents. Good question. And with the new building, that would be the same way. There would be an assigned parking area that somebody living in assisted living would park their car if they have a car. Good question.
So those are all of our open questions. So unless you have any closing remarks, that's about it.
All right. So we'll just give one last chance here. If anybody still has a question, type it in and I will answer it. But otherwise, you can see the folks on the screen here that will be reaching out to you to follow up. Um, Again, this is the third webinar in our series of 4. So the last one is on downsizing with seniors moving smarter. And then in March and April, we will continue to do our live events, in-person events regarding the flats. So we would encourage you to take a look at that and join us on that priority list if this is something that fits your time frame. As I said, the flats apartments will be ready at the end of 2027, the fall of 2027. So that's a nice time frame for a lot of folks. Any other questions that came in, Brooke?
Nope, looks like we were very thorough. Oh, I lied. One just popped up.
Okay.
Someone asked, do you know what a wait list looks like for a Ravines apartment and other areas, so gardens?
Yeah, so I mentioned that the Ravines apartments, the garden apartments, and our townhomes all have waiting lists. They vary in length. Um, I would say, now it's looking like about 2 years. It's hard for us to guess because things can change on a dime, of course. But with regard to the ravines, the interesting thing is that all of those residents, the building is full. They all just moved in within the last 6 months. So unless something catastrophic were to happen, those folks are not going anywhere for quite some time. Um, so I would say, the ravines would for sure be 2 years and probably longer than that. In our garden apartments, I think 1.5 to 2 years is still a good time frame. And the townhomes about the same. The thing with a waiting list is there's absolutely no harm in getting on a waiting list, because even if we called you and you were not ready, that's perfectly fine. We don't drop you to the bottom of the list. Um, we just mark down that you're not ready and you don't think you will be for another year, and that's perfectly fine. So there's no downside to joining a waiting list, and we would definitely encourage you to do that. And the same is true for the flats. Going on our priority list right now is not a commitment whatsoever. It's just saying, hey, this is something that you're interested in and you want to continue to get information as we have it. Um, and if you decide to reserve an apartment, that's fantastic. If you say, nope, this is not going to work for me, that's okay too. So there's really no downside at all to being on any of our waiting lists. All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us today. We did record this session, and I believe we emailed that out to everybody. So if you want to watch it again or you want to send it to a family member, it's good for that. But we will be following up with all of you, and we look forward to talking with you more. Thank you so much.